Hey guys, tonight we're staying up way past bedtime. The mic is hot, the gain is low, and the only sound louder than my own nervous breathing is the relentless, heavy rain tapping a chaotic rhythm against the long stretch of classroom windows. They stretch like glass eyes down the deserted B-wing hallway of Oakhaven High. Every fluorescent bulb above me is doing the bare minimum, a tired, greenish hum that feels less like light and more like an exhausted whisper. The air is cold and carries that specific, nostalgic smell of old dust, industrial floor wax, and damp concrete, a scent only truly potent when the building is entirely empty, breathing only for itself. I came back here tonight to film, just like I promised, to look into the rumors, but standing here, alone, with the entire building swallowing every sound I make, I realize this place feels less like a public school and more like a colossal, echoing tomb. The long shadows cast by the rows of blue and gray lockers seem to stretch and twitch whenever the power fluctuates, and it always fluctuates late at night. You probably won't make it to morning after this one. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is right now. Post your location and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe crack open a window for that midnight breeze, and let's walk the halls together. The reason I am in the 1950s administrative wing, the oldest, dustiest section of this entire sprawling high school complex, isn't just the promise of a good story. It's the promise of a true legend. Oakhaven High is structured like a timeline of architectural mistakes. The bright, new gym wing sits cheerfully next to the dark, brutalist science block, which then backs onto the original, sprawling stone structure built almost a century ago. It's in the heart of that original structure that the truly strange things reside. I'm walking slowly, careful not to let my old tennis shoes squeak too loudly on the polished floor. The PA system is silent, utterly dead, yet I swear I can hear a faint, metallic feedback sound whenever I pass under a speaker grill, like the system is waiting for an announcement that will never come, or maybe one that already happened, trapped in the wires. The specific destination tonight is room 113. It's the school's detention room, situated inconveniently between the main office and the stairwell that leads down into the famously dark, rarely used basement storage area. By all accounts, it looks normal. It has a window facing the quad, usually covered by blinds, two sturdy institutional doors, one main entry, one emergency exit, and a heavy steel frame. But the myth about room 113, the one that makes the hairs stand up on the back of my neck, is specific. The detention room doesn't have a door on the inside. It sounds like a ridiculous contradiction, something a kid makes up to scare a substitute teacher, but the details that usually circulate among the student body feel oddly cohesive. They say that once the main door clicks shut, the inside surface of the door changes. It doesn't just lock. The physical material of the door simply stops being a door. It becomes seamless, solid wall, identical to the rest of the cold, gray cinder blocks that make up the interior. And if you're trapped inside, they say, you're trapped until someone on the outside decides to let you out, or until the bell rings for release, which, in the deepest hours of the night, is an eternity away. The realistic anchor here is the actual layout. Oakhaven was built quickly after the war, and the administrative wing has always been structurally strange. The offices were renovated in the late 80s, but room 113, the detention room, was never touched. It sits slightly recessed into the hallway, almost sunken, which gives it a distinctly heavier feel than the surrounding classrooms. 112, the history annex, and 114, the testing center. I stop about 50 feet away, pulling the small tripod into focus. I need to document this approach. The air definitely feels cooler here. The low, guttural hum of the nearby refrigerator unit in the staff break room seems to intensify as I approach, turning into a deeper drone. The mythic or supernatural element, the real meat of the fear, revolves around what happened in that room in the early 2000s. A student, let's call him Mark, was serving a week of after-school detention for graffiti. On Thursday, Mark never came home. The school claimed he had served his time and left. His parents claimed he never checked in. The police investigated. The only physical evidence was his backpack, neatly placed under the desk in room 113. The door was locked from the outside by the supervising teacher, just as it was every night. But Mark was gone. He never showed up again. The rumor, whispered from locker bank to locker bank, was that Mark tried to escape detention early, realized the door wasn't just locked, but gone, and panicked. And whatever happens in that room when the barrier between here and not here thins, it took Mark. I reached the door. It is solid, dark brown varnished wood, institutional standard issue. There is a small, rectangular window cut into the top third, reinforced with wire mesh. The light in the hallway directly above the door is flickering, not just dimming, but cutting in and out. Hiss, dark, hiss light. I check my watch. 1:17 a.m. The deepest, quietest part of the night. I lean close to the door, pressing my ear against the wood. I hear nothing. No movement, no breathing, no sighing of the old structure settling. It is dead quiet. Yet, there's a coldness emanating from the wood that feels wrong, like the room inside is actively pulling heat out of the hallway. I retrieve the old brass key I borrowed from the head custodian's office earlier. It feels heavy and cold in my palm, a simple, old object that holds immense potential for disaster. I look down the corridor one last time. Just shadows and the repetitive pattern of lockers. The reflective thought hits me hard right then, staring at the scarred, impersonal surface of the door. I think some lessons were never meant to be taught. Some truths about these institutions, about the boundaries we rely on every day, are better left buried under layers of paint and bureaucracy. But curiosity is a heavy anchor, and I'm already pulled too far under the surface of the night to turn back. I slide the key into the lock. The tumblers scrape loudly, a sound that, in this echoing stillness, might as well be a gunshot. I twist the key. Click. I pull the door inward. It doesn't swing freely. It drags heavily on the floor, grating against the threshold. The interior of room 113 is predictable. Rows of old, wooden student desks, scarred with decades of board vandalism. A single, large teacher's desk. A clock mounted high on the back wall, its hands stuck at 3:05, and a vast, oppressive silence. The lights are off, of course. I stand on the threshold, half in the familiar fluorescent hum of the hallway, half in the absolute blackness of the detention room. I have to enter, to test the rumor, to see if the door truly vanishes. I pull my phone out, turning the flashlight on. The beam cuts across the desks, kicking up a shimmer of dust motes suspended in the dead air. I step across the threshold, into the room, and the moment my foot leaves the polished hallway floor, the cold grips me fully. It's not just cold. It's an inert, heavy, crushing density. My heart hammers against my ribs, a chaotic drumbeat against the school's silence. I am here now, inside room 113. The moment of truth arrives instantly. I turn back, reaching for the door, intending to keep it propped open with my foot. But before my hand even brushes the edge, the heavy wood seems to sigh, and the door slams shut on its own, cutting off the flickering light of the hallway. I am plunged into absolute, suffocating darkness. The heavy, authoritative thud of the door slamming shut is immediately followed by a profound, echoing silence. It's not just the silence of an empty school. It's a silence that absorbs sound, a thick, damp blanket thrown over my ears. Panic, cold and sharp, tries to claw its way up my throat, but years of forcing myself into these dark places kicks in, demanding control. I don't scream. I grip the phone, its flashlight beam a pathetic, narrow white sword against the vast, crushing dark. The first thing I do is pivot, throwing the light at the wall where the door should be. I freeze. It is gone. Not just locked, not just bolted shut, but fundamentally absent. The steel frame, the varnished wood, the brass knob, all dissolved. Instead, the beam illuminates a smooth, continuous surface of cold, gray cinder block. The wall flows unbroken from the corner near the teacher's desk all the way to the far corner near the window. It is exactly the same texture, color, and density as the adjacent wall sections. Where the door once stood, there is now just solid, indifferent architecture. I drop the phone onto the worn linoleum floor, a loud, plasticky clatter that dies instantly, and press my hands against the spot where the lock plate would have been. The cinder block is rough, dry, and bitterly cold. I scrape my fingernails across the surface. No seam, no hairline crack, no residual trace of the frame. It feels like this wall has been here since the building was erected, utterly sealed, utterly permanent. The rumor was true. It was impossibly, terrifyingly true. I retrieve the phone, my hand shaking violently. The air in here is stale and heavy, weighted down by generations of boredom and resentment. The fluorescent lights of the hallway, which felt so oppressive and eerie just moments ago, now seem like a warm, comforting sun I have been permanently shut away from. I spin the light slowly around the room. It's a standard box shape, but it feels oddly compressed, like the dimensions are shifting imperceptibly inward. The walls are institutional gray, the kind of color designed to quell excitement and inspire compliance. A blackboard runs across the front wall, smeared with ancient, ghostly chalk dust. The ghost of a name, Mrs. Albright, is half erased high above the teaching surface. The realistic anchor of the room is the configuration of the student desks. They are bolted to the floor in neat, oppressive rows, 8 rows of 4. Most desks in Oakhaven High have been replaced, but these are the originals. Heavy, varnished oak with folding desktop lids and deep wells for books. Looking closely, I can see where countless names and dates have been carved into the wood, forming a silent historical record of teenage rebellion. The distinct, acrid smell of old wood polish and pencil shavings hangs heavy in the still air. On the back wall, high above the final row of desks, sits the clock. It is large, circular, and housed in yellowed plastic. It is completely immobile, the thin second hand frozen at precisely 3:05. That time, 3:05 p.m., is precisely 5 minutes after the final bell of the school day rings. The time detention officially ends, if a student is lucky. In this room, however, it seems 3:05 p.m. is merely the beginning of the trap. My focus snaps to the other exit, the emergency door. In the original blueprints, Room 113 had 2 egress points, the main hallway entrance and a second, metal fire exit door near the window, leading directly to the exterior courtyard. I rush over, stumbling slightly over the legs of a desk. I swing the light beam onto the space. The emergency exit is also gone. It is replaced by the same continuous, unbroken wall of gray cinder block. No crash bar, no panic hardware, no hinges. Just seamless, crushing silence. I run my hands across this section too. It is flawless. This isn't just a trick of perspective or an elaborate lock mechanism. The internal reality of this room does not match the external reality of the school building. From the hallway, someone could walk right up to room 113 and see two doors. But from inside, the room is a vault, an inescapable box carved out of nothingness. The implication is terrifying. The room configuration itself is actively hostile. It only manifests the door when nobody is inside or when the designated time for entry or exit has passed. Once you willingly step across the threshold and the condition is met, being alone, perhaps, the architecture shifts, sealing you in. I lean back against the teacher's desk, trying to catch my breath. The dust motes dancing in my flashlight beam seem unnaturally dense, like miniature galaxies orbiting in the static air. This is where the mythic or supernatural element starts to press in. I am absolutely alone, yet the air pressure feels wrong. It's too heavy on my chest, almost humid, despite the bitter coldness emanating from the stone walls. And then I hear it. A sound so faint I almost dismiss it as a trick of the ear, perhaps the distant moan of the heating system winding down for the night. But it's not mechanical. It's a whisper. It sounds like paper, the rustle of paper, like someone nervously flipping through a stack of test pages, or perhaps scratching graphite onto coarse notebook paper. It's coming from the center of the room, somewhere near the front row of desks. I inch forward, flashlight steady. The desks are empty. The floor is bare, except for my phone's shadow. I shine the light under the desks, into the dark wells. Nothing. The sound stops the instant the beam hits the area, leaving only the oppressive quiet. I wait, suspended in the silence, listening so hard my ears start to ring. And then I realize something deeply unsettling about the environment. The dust. In a normal, actively used room in an old building, there would be ambient noise, the building breathing, the pipes ticking, perhaps the sound of the rain outside. Here, the silence is so perfect, so complete, that the layer of dust covering the desks and the floor should be thick and undisturbed. But it isn't. The surfaces are dusty, yes, but there are distinct, faint smudges on the teacher's desk, almost like someone recently cleared a small workspace. And more frighteningly, leading from the front row of student desks back towards the center of the room, there is a very faint path cleared in the grime on the linoleum. It's not boot prints, but a shallow trough, suggesting something, or someone, has been dragged along that path very recently. Maybe Mark's backpack wasn't just placed under the desk. My reflective thought pierces the initial terror. Why did I assume this was just a physical trap? Detention is never just about physical isolation. It's about psychological control, about forcing submission. This room isn't designed just to keep you out of the hallway. It's designed to keep you in a specific state of mind. I shine the light back at the front wall. The chalkboard. I swing the beam left, looking for the light switches. There are two heavy-duty industrial switches near the teacher's desk. I reach out, my hand clammy with sweat despite the arctic cold of the room, and flip the first switch upward. Click. Nothing happens. The darkness remains absolute, punctuated only by my phone's desperate glow. I try the second switch. Click. A faint, sickly amber light sputters and dies instantly in the ceiling fixture directly above me. It was too weak to illuminate the room, but it was enough to show me a brief, unsettling flash of detail. In that millisecond of weak, dead light, I saw my own reflection in the wire mesh of the inner window, staring back. But beside my shoulder, in the peripheral dark, there was a distortion. A taller shadow, thin and hunched, leaning over the back row of desks, perfectly still. The darkness slams back down, heavier than before. The image is instantly gone, but the impression is cemented. I am not alone in this impenetrable vault. I am standing in the sealed, silent detention room, and someone, or something, that belonged here never graduated. And it just saw me turn on the light. The subsequent return to absolute darkness feels like a physical punch. It's not just the absence of light. It's the immediate, smothering realization that the flash of the shadow was real, not an illusion born of panic. My heart is a frantic, trapped bird in my chest, and every rational thought is struggling against the rising tide of primal fear. I retreat slowly, backing away from the teacher's desk, keeping the beam focused rigidly on the area where the shadow stood, even though I know the figure is hidden again in the oppressive blackness. The air seems to crackle now, thick with potential energy, like static electricity before a storm. I can smell ozone and something else, a faint, metallic scent that reminds me sickeningly of old blood mixed with pencil lead. I whisper into the silence, my voice catching. Who's there? Only the immense, dead quiet of the room answers. I keep the light moving, searching the perimeter. The walls are still seamless, mocking the architecture outside. This confinement is absolute. I am sealed within the temporal pocket of room 113, and whatever occupies this space is clearly aware of my presence. The sound starts again, closer this time, just behind the fourth row of desks. It is the distinct, unsettling sound of chalk dragging across a blackboard. SCKKK. Slow, deliberate, and entirely out of place, since the sound is clearly originating from the center of the room, far from the front wall. I move closer, carefully navigating the bolted desks. The sound of the chalking stops abruptly. The silence that follows is heavy, expectant. I shine the beam onto the desk in the fourth row, second column. The wooden surface is scarred and dusty, but in the middle of the grime, there is a fresh, clear drawing. It wasn't there when I first scanned the room. It's not a word or a name. It's a diagram, drawn with what looks like a thick stick of white chalk. The diagram is a stylized, simple architectural sketch of a square room, roughly detailing the location of the desks and the teacher's station. It's an outline of room 113, but there is one significant detail added to the sketch that makes me recoil. Along the edge where the door should be, the artist drew a massive, solid black bar, deliberately obscuring the entry point. And beside the diagram, scrawled in neat, unnerving cursive, is a single sentence. The lesson is obedience. The realistic anchor here, besides the geometry of the room, is the lingering smell of chalk dust. Chalk dust holds a unique place in the school environment, a scent of learning, but also failure, erasure, and tedious repetition. The fact that the entity is communicating through chalk, through the very medium of instruction, suggests a link to the educational function of this space. This isn't just a trapped spirit, it's a terrifying embodiment of the detention ethos. I feel a profound wave of claustrophobia. The walls seem to press inward, the reality of my predicament sinking in. I am in detention indefinitely, and the lesson is starting. I try the door wall again, just in case. I slam my shoulder into the spot where the frame should be, yelling out in frustration. The cinder block is cold and unforgiving. The impact sends a dull vibration up my arm, and the resulting echo is deadened instantly by the room's inert atmosphere. As I rub my sore shoulder, I realize the silence that follows my outburst is immediately broken, not by chalk, but by a sound far more intimate and horrifyingly familiar, the faint, metallic reverberation of the PA system. But it's not coming from the speakers mounted in the ceiling, which are definitely dead. It's coming from inside the walls. It is the sound of the PA mic being keyed open, a sharp, high-pitched SCHHH ping, followed by the distorted, tinny voice of the principal. Except it's not the current principal. It's Principal Thompson, who retired 5 years ago and passed away last winter. The voice is warped, swimming in static, yet recognizable. Attention, students. Attention, students. The voice drones, sounding tired, trapped, and infinitely old. Detention period is officially underway. All assigned personnel will remain in their designated stations. Failure to comply will result in disciplinary escalation. The announcement cuts out with the same static burst. The PA system usually broadcasts throughout the entire building. The fact that I can hear it only faintly, as if through a thick layer of concrete, suggests two things. First, that this room is physically detached from the current school infrastructure, existing somewhere between the walls, and second, that whatever time this room exists in, Principal Thompson is still on duty. The clock on the wall remains frozen at 3:05. The detention period, initiated by a dead man's voice, has begun. I walk toward the front of the room, drawn to the teacher's desk. It is a massive, heavy piece of furniture, covered in scratches and a thick layer of dust, save for the one small, circular smudge I saw earlier. On the flat surface of the desk, amidst a stack of yellowed, obsolete hall passes, sits a single, new composition book. It is closed. I pick it up with a shaking hand. It feels abnormally cold and heavy. The cover is black and white marbled, the kind every student buys at the start of the year. But written on the label, in the same unsettling cursive as the note on the student desk, is the title, Assignments. This is the mythic or supernatural element intensifying. This book is a direct communication tool, an invitation into the entity's twisted reality. I open the cover. The first page is blank except for a date written in careful penmanship, October 14th. Today's date, exactly. The next page holds the first entry. It's not an assignment for me. It's a roster. A list of names, written in flawless, clear handwriting. 1. Mark D. Disciplinary action, truancy/vandalism. 2. Sarah K. Disciplinary action, cheating. 3. David P. Disciplinary action, insubordination. 4. Jonas T. Disciplinary action, failure to report. 5. My name, written in the same ink, disciplinary action, unauthorized entry/disrupting order. The list stops at 5 names. Mark is the student who disappeared 2 decades ago. The other names are vaguely familiar, possibly other missing students that became local urban myths. I am the 5th entry. The roster implies that all 5 of us are present, accounted for, and currently serving detention. My reflective thought burns through the fear. This room operates on a specific kind of internal logic. It requires students. It requires discipline. And it requires the pretense of a lesson. My detention is not merely a physical isolation. It is a psychological integration into a permanent class roster. I flip the page to find the actual assignment. It is short, neat, and devastatingly simple. Assignment 1. Examine the boundaries of the established space. All movement must be justified. I am being watched, tested, and graded. The entity in this room, perhaps the spirit of a strict teacher, or maybe the manifestation of the sheer oppressive weight of institutional control, wants me to move. It wants me to prove I understand the boundaries. I grip the composition book, the paper rough and cold against my skin. I throw the flashlight beam back toward the rear of the room, scanning the desks again. The dust is still dense, the shadows deep. The sound of the paper rustling starts again, right next to me, far too close. It's not chalk this time. It's the distinct, quiet sound of a textbook being slowly, heavily placed onto a desk. I jump back, stumbling over the chair of the teacher's desk. I whirl the light around. Nothing. The sound was too close, too solid to be spectral. I shine the light down, toward the floor, and see it, a thick, green-covered textbook resting on the corner of the teacher's desk, where there had only been dust and the hall passes moments before. The title, embossed in fading gold lettering, reads, Oakhaven Architecture, 1950 to 1980. It's open to a specific page. The page details the original layout of the B wing. My eyes fixate on the diagram of room 113. The architect's sketch clearly shows 2 doors, and beneath the diagram, someone, the same unsettling cursive writer, has used a thick red pen to cross out both door entries. Below the crossed-out drawing, they have written, "Only one boundary matters. The interior." I feel the cold shadow of the entity move closer, hovering just at the edge of my flashlight's meager reach. It's waiting for me to read the text. It's waiting for me to understand the rules of this impossible detention. The realization that the room is actively hostile, that the architecture itself is a living part of the punishment, settles over me with a crushing weight. I am not dealing with a simple haunting. I am trapped inside a localized, temporal loop centered around the idea of scholastic failure and eternal punishment. This is a cursed classroom, and I am the newest addition to its curriculum. I slowly close the heavy architecture textbook, its pages smelling of dry rot and institutional indifference. The roster, the assignment book, the text, and the vanishing doors all point to a strict, methodical intelligence governing this space. The ambient pressure increases. I still can't hear the rain outside. The room is too perfectly soundproofed against the world. Yet, the air is thick with a low, insistent hum, like the sound of fluorescent bulbs struggling to ignite, but magnified and distorted. I follow the directive of Assignment 1. Examine the boundaries of the established space. If the doors are gone and the walls are absolute, the only other boundary is the window. Room 113 has one long, horizontal window high up on the exterior wall, covered by thick, beige vinyl blinds. I drag one of the heavy student desks over, scraping the rusted metal feet against the linoleum. The sound is deafening, tearing through the silence, and the resulting echo sounds strangely plural, as if the scrape was repeated by several unseen objects. I climb onto the desk, pushing aside the dusty blinds. The window pane is thick, cold glass. I press my face against it, shielding the sides of my head with my hands to cut the glare of my phone's light. Outside, I see exactly what I expected: the school quad, empty, dark, and utterly silent. The rain has stopped, leaving the asphalt shiny and reflecting the deep black of the sky. But then I see the light. It's the faint, flickering green light from the hallway, filtering through the windows of the opposite wing. I look down toward the ground outside room 113. If I was looking out from Oakhaven High, I should see the exterior stone wall of the school leading up to the window frame. Instead, there is only a sheer drop. The realistic anchor of the building layout is that room 113 is on the ground floor, perhaps slightly recessed, but certainly accessible from the exterior quad. I should be looking out onto the asphalt path and the lawn. But I am not. I am looking down a terrifying vertical drop. It's like the entire detention room has been lifted 50 feet into the air and deposited onto the sheer side of the building, suspended in the night. Below me, the ground is too far away to distinguish details, merging into a uniform, terrifying blackness. The air currents I feel outside the glass are too strong for a ground-level room. I yank the desk back and jump down, heart hammering, rubbing the grime from the window off my hands. The external reality is completely severed. The room is not only sealed from the hallway, but it is displaced entirely, existing in a location that simply does not correlate to the physical architecture of the school. It's the supernatural element made manifest. The room is floating, existing in a dimension parallel to the actual high school, fixed only by the unholy geometry of its walls. This explains the heavy silence and the warped PA system. Sounds travel differently across dimensions. The clock on the wall still reads 3:05. The detention continues, existing outside of linear time. Then, the PA system crackles again, much louder this time, shaking the dust in the fixtures. The voice of Principal Thompson, metallic and strained, is closer, seeming to emanate from the very walls. Detention assignment update. Unauthorized movement has been detected. All students are reminded that the designated period is for reflection, not evasion. Remaining silent is mandatory. I realized that my action, moving the desk to look out the window, was the unauthorized movement. The entity, the disciplinary force, is reacting instantly. A second voice cuts in on the PA, a chilling, high-pitched female voice, also heavily distorted by static. It sounds like a child, panicked and weeping. It's not working. The bell won't ring. Please, I just want to go home. I finished the test. Why won't the bell ring? The adult voice of Thompson cuts in sharply, layered over the child's terror. Silence. Student Sarah K. Insubordination noted. Extend detention period by 3 hours. The child's weeping abruptly stops, replaced by a thick, wet gurgle sound, and then static. Sarah K. I recognized the name instantly, the second entry on the detention roster. This is the lingering, trapped presence I felt earlier, the one that saw me when I tried the light switch. She isn't a ghost in the traditional sense. She's a trapped echo, a student perpetually serving her time in this impossible space. The sound that follows is the most dreadful so far. It is a long, slow, sickening squeak, like a heavy wooden chair being dragged very slowly across a polished floor. The sound comes from the front of the room, near the teacher's desk. I shine the light instantly. The area is empty, but the squeak sounds again, ending with a faint, metallic thump, like a heavy textbook being closed. I approach the teacher's desk again. The green architecture book is gone. In its place is an old, thin yearbook. Oakhaven High, class of 2004. I flip it open, careful not to touch the pages too much. The spine cracks with age. I find the senior class photos. Scanning the faces, bright, hopeful, oblivious, my eye catches the photo of a slightly awkward boy with dark, anxious eyes. Under his photo, Mark D, future plans, undecided. Quote, I just want to get out of here. Beside his photo, someone has used a thick, black marker to score out his face entirely, leaving a jagged, permanent scar on the page. Beneath the picture, the original quote is overwritten in the familiar, neat cursive, failed to comply. Status, permanent detention. I think some lessons were never meant to be taught. And the most terrifying lesson of all is that failure here is permanent, not just academic. Mark, Sarah, David, and Jonas are still here, fixed in their moment of terror, constantly serving the detention that took them. And now I am the fifth. I flip the yearbook forward, toward the back pages dedicated to staff. The section is thin. I find Principal Thompson's photo, smiling politely at the camera. He looks weary, even then. His face is clean. But on the page opposite his, I find a full-page photo of a stern, middle-aged woman with tight, graying hair and a rigid posture. She is wearing a sensible wool skirt and a severe blouse. She is identified only as Ms. R, Detention Supervisor. Her expression is one of cold, absolute disappointment. She is not defaced, but beneath her photo, the cursive handwriting has returned, written in thick, confident ink. It is not an assignment or a warning. It is a boast. They never tried to leave. They just tried to hide. The realization strikes me with visceral force. Mark and the others weren't taken because they tried to escape the room's physical boundary. They were trapped because, when the door vanished, they accepted the premise of the detention. They tried to comply, to wait for the bell, or to hide from the supervisor. But in this reality, the bell never rings. I look back at the clock, frozen at 3:05. I look at the sealed walls. I look up at the blackness of the ceiling where the lights won't work. If the rule is obedience, the way out must be defiance. But how do you defy an entire reality that has been constructed to punish you? I grip the yearbook tightly, my mind racing. I need to find the core of this dimension, the reason it exists. I need to find the sixth section of this inescapable architecture before I, too, become just a distorted voice on the PA system, forever waiting for the bell that never comes. The yearbook drops from my numb fingers, scattering dust across the scarred floor. I step away from the teacher's desk, needing distance from the tangible evidence of permanent failure. Ms. R., the detention supervisor, is the key, or rather, the personification of the malevolent institutional force holding this reality together. She isn't just watching, she's teaching through the very act of my confinement. I need to map this impossible space to find the weak point in the geometry. I activate my phone's camera, switching the view to video, intending to record the perimeter and create a visual reference of the sealed walls. As I pan slowly across the rear wall, the flashlight cutting a path through the deep shadows, the PA system crackles again. Student, my name. The principal's voice hisses, static-ridden and cold. The use of unauthorized external recording devices is strictly prohibited during reflective time. Cease recording immediately. I ignore him. The fact that the entity knows exactly what I am doing, even in the absolute darkness, confirms the total surveillance. I need to keep documenting, to prove that this room defies Euclidean space. I reach the corner near the window wall. The surface is the same smooth, heavy cinder block. I run my hand along the cold stone, searching for any discontinuity, any difference in texture or temperature. Nothing. But my hand stops when it passes a specific spot, low on the wall, about waist height. I pull the phone closer, shining the beam directly on the area. There is a mirror there. Not a modern, clean mirror, but a deeply tarnished, silvered surface set into the wall, almost perfectly flush with the cinder block. It's about the size of a standard piece of notebook paper. The realistic anchor here is the institutional bathroom mirror, often placed low and secured with anti-vandal screws. Except this isn't a bathroom. It's a detention room, and this mirror is placed in a totally illogical location, far from any sink or water source. I lean in cautiously. The reflection is distorted and aged, the silver backing failing in patches. I can see my face, pale and strained, reflected back, illuminated by the harsh light of the phone. The reflection is delayed. I move my head quickly. My image lags by half a second. This is the mythic or supernatural element, a distorted reflection, a break in the room's absolute, self-contained reality. I look closer at my reflected image. My hair is wrong. My clothes are slightly different. A generic, faded Oakhaven High School sweatshirt I haven't owned since 9th grade. My reflection is dressed like a student who got detention, not an adult breaking in. And behind me, clearly visible in the reflected space of the small, tarnished mirror, The interior of the detention room looks entirely different. The desks are filled. The reflection shows 4 other figures seated at the desks, spectral, faint, but definitively present. They are hunched over their assignments, their bodies radiating the same deep dread I felt earlier. Mark, Sarah, David, and Jonas, all caught in their moment of eternal failure, quietly serving their perpetual sentence. I turn violently, shining the beam around the actual room. It is empty, silent, and draped in shadows. I look back at the mirror. They are still there, spectral students in a room full of fear. And in the reflection, the figure I saw earlier, the tall, hunched shadow, is standing at the teacher's desk. It is Ms. R. Her reflection is sharp, clearer than the students. She is not looking at the students. She is looking directly at my reflection. Her face, stern in the yearbook, is chillingly blank in the mirror, her expression a flat mask of disapproval. And she is holding the assignment book. She slowly opens it, her movements stiff and methodical. In the reflection, I see her point a long, thin finger at the bottom of the roster where my name is written. She taps the page once. The voice of Principal Thompson returns, closer than ever, seeming to emanate from the mirror itself. Student, my name. Your designated reflection area is assigned. You are disrupting the quiet study required of the other detainees. Report to your desk. The reality shifts again. I look down at my hands, my actual hands, holding the phone. I then look at the mirror. My reflection is no longer standing. It is sitting at the empty desk in the 4th row, 2nd column. The desk where the chalk diagram was drawn, the one marked with the path cleared in the dust. The reflection of myself is staring straight ahead, hands folded neatly on the desktop, waiting for instruction. This is the terror of integration. The room doesn't just trap the physical body. It traps the memory and persona of a student, assimilating them into the permanent class structure. My physical body is still standing by the wall, but my spectral self has been seated. I realize I need to break the rules, not follow them. The confinement isn't physical, but behavioral. The detention supervisor wants me to sit down, to accept the assignment, to submit. I spin away from the mirror and rush toward the teacher's desk. I grab the heavy, wooden desk chair. It's an old, rolling office chair, heavy and solid. I don't sit. I lift the chair high above my head, ignoring the rising static and the furious, metallic buzzing starting to emanate from the walls. I think some lessons were never meant to be taught, and the lesson of obedience is the deadliest one here. I slam the chair down onto the smooth linoleum, once, twice, 3 times. The sound is an explosion in the silence, a raw, screaming protest against the imposed order. The PA system screams in response. Not a voice, but pure, furious white noise, vibrating the air, making my teeth ache. The intense noise, however, causes a flicker in the room. For a split second, the ceiling lights flare, a bright, painful white light. It's longer than the previous sputter. In that brief, glorious light, I see the ceiling clearly. It's high, covered in acoustic tiles, and one of the tiles is wrong. It's loose, hanging slightly lower than the others, positioned directly above the teacher's desk. It is a physical, factual anchor, a structural flaw. When the light dies and the room slams back into darkness, the buzzing remains, louder and more insistent. I drag the heavy chair back under the specific ceiling tile, ignoring the agonizing protests from the walls. I need a way out, and if the walls and doors are gone, the only possibility is the space above the room. I stand on the chair, stretching my hands toward the loose tile. The static is overwhelming, crawling across my skin. As my fingers brush the cool, dry edge of the acoustic tile, the PA system delivers its most chilling message yet. The voice of Ms. R is not distorted. It is calm, close, and infinitely disappointed. It sounds like she is standing right behind me. The next section is not for students. Only faculty may access the 5th floor. You must wait for the bell, student. I hear a faint, scraping sound, the sound of her heavy, sensible shoe dragging across the linoleum, moving slowly toward the chair. She is here, in the physical room, not just in the mirror. I frantically push the tile upward. It scrapes against the concrete ceiling above. The space I reveal is not the empty attic of the school. It is a narrow, vertical shaft, dark and dusty, leading upward. It smells sharply of electricity and old, dry paper. I shove my flashlight into the hole, illuminating the passage. The dust swirling in the beam is thick, revealing a narrow ladder of ancient, rusting metal bolted to the interior wall of the shaft. This structural anomaly, this internal service shaft, was never on the blueprints of room 113. The ladder goes straight up, disappearing into the blackness above. I am halfway up the chair when I hear the breath catch directly below me. Detention extended. Permanent. You are failing, student. I don't look down. I think I see the shadow of her hand reach out, reaching for my ankle. I launch myself upward, scrambling onto the first rung of the metal ladder, pulling myself into the absolute dark of the ventilation shaft. I scramble upward, propelled by raw adrenaline and the profound terror of Ms. R's proximity. The metal rungs of the ladder are freezing under my grip, coated in decades of dust and grit. Below me, the opening to room 113, marked by the faint glow of my abandoned phone light on the teacher's desk, seems to shrink rapidly. I hear the guttural, furious sound of the PA system below me, a sustained, grinding shriek of static that resonates up the shaft, shaking the metal rungs and filling my ears with pain. Ms. R is still below. I can hear her heavy, measured breathing, a slow, predatory sound that seems to suggest she is watching my ascent, certain that her gravity will eventually pull me back down. The shaft is impossibly tall, far exceeding the height of a single-story room. This service access is clearly not part of the standard Oakhaven High infrastructure. It's a necessary, terrifying component of the false reality of room 113, designed to lead to the true heart of the prison. The realistic or factual anchor here is the nature of utility shafts in old buildings, often tight, dark, and acoustically insulated, but this one stretches into the unknown. I climb for what feels like 5 minutes, an eternity in the claustrophobic darkness. My muscles are screaming, and the dust is thick in my throat. I am climbing toward the 5th floor she mentioned, a floor that, according to all municipal records and school blueprints, does not exist. Finally, the ladder ends. My head hits the underside of a hatch. I push upward with my shoulders. It gives with a horrible, metallic shriek of rusted hinges. I pull myself through the opening and onto a floor. The air up here is different, thin, dry, and silent. The chaotic static from below is instantly muffled, left behind in the confines of the detention room. I am standing in a narrow corridor, lit by a single, weak bulb encased in a wire cage, hanging directly above the hatch. The light is sickly yellow, casting long, distorted shadows. This is the mythic or supernatural element. The 5th floor, the true center of the detention loop. The corridor is short, perhaps 20 feet long. It ends abruptly in a single, heavy, dark wooden door, completely unlike the institutional doors downstairs. This door looks like the entrance to a principal's office or a very old library. Along the walls of the corridor, arranged like trophies, are row upon row of old clocks. They are of every shape and size: cuckoo clocks, desk clocks, large, circular classroom clocks. Every single one is stopped. Every single one is frozen at the same time, 3:05, the permanent moment of non-release. I walk slowly toward the door, my shoes kicking up soft layers of dust. The silence here is absolute, not the heavy silence of the detention room, but a dry, preserved silence, like the air in a museum display case. I reach the end of the hall. The final door is heavy oak, unmarked except for a single, small brass plaque set into the wood. I lean in, squinting in the dim yellow light. The plaque reads, "Supervision." I am standing outside Ms. R.'s office, the nerve center of the perpetual detention. I press my ear against the wood. I hear nothing, not even the dry tick of the clocks. They are all dead. I reach for the brass handle. It is cold, heavy, and ornately detailed. I twist it slowly. It is unlocked. I push the door inward. It doesn't creak. It swings open silently, revealing a small, dark office, illuminated only by the light filtering in from the hallway behind me. The office is dominated by a large, pristine wooden desk. It is organized with meticulous precision. The walls are covered in file cabinets, organized alphabetically. The scent here is overwhelmingly of old paper, leather, and institutional cologne. And sitting at the desk, facing the door, illuminated by the harsh yellow light, is Ms. R. She is perfectly still, dressed in the severe clothes from the yearbook. She is not spectral or ghostly. She is physically present, utterly real, and terrifyingly calm. Her hands are folded neatly on the desk blotter, and she is looking at me with an expression of profound, tired resignation. "You failed the assignment, student," she says, her voice low, measured, and entirely free of static. "You attempted to evade reflection. Disruption noted." I clutch the door frame, ready to run back down the shaft, but I know running is what trapped Mark and the others. The door vanished. I gasp, my throat dry. There's no way out. She tilts her head, her gaze fixed on me. The door is temporary. The detention is not. The purpose of this room is not to hold you physically, but to ensure that the lesson of structure and hierarchy is internalized. You broke the rules. You sought to leave before the bell. She gestures with a thin, pale finger toward a large, white calendar hanging on the wall behind her. The calendar is marked only with dates, but every single day, stretching back decades, is stamped with one word: detained. The desk is clean except for one object, a single, crisp, white sheet of paper, perfectly centered on the blotter. "Your final assignment," she states. "The ultimate requirement for release." I take 2 hesitant steps toward the desk. The paper is an exam. The header reads, "Oakhaven High Detention Assessment. Final exam." There is only one question, written in the same flawless cursive. Question: why did you come back to the school after hours? And what did you expect to find in room 113? Maximum 100 words. I look at her, confused and shaking. That's it. That's the final assignment. The penalty for disruption is not physical pain, student, she says, her voice softening slightly, showing a terrifying touch of human emotion. It is forced self-reflection. You came here seeking a story, seeking proof of failure. Now you must justify your curiosity. The reflective thought clarifies everything. This room is the manifestation of the school's deepest fear, that the educational process is meaningless, and all that remains is the structure of rules and the terror of noncompliance. My final test is to admit my own vulnerability, my own curiosity that led me to break the ultimate rule: stay out of what doesn't concern you. I look at the exam paper. I look at Ms. R, waiting patiently. She is not going to move. I know I have to answer truthfully, to admit to the core, selfish reason I entered her permanent detention. That honesty, that surrender of pretense, might be the only variable capable of breaking her iron logic. I search my pockets. No pen. Ms. R reaches into a drawer and slides a heavy, old fountain pen across the desk blotter. It stops precisely at the edge of the paper. The pen is dark green, weighty, and smells faintly of ink and copper. Write it down, she orders, her voice firm again. Be honest. Justify your detention. I take the pen. The metal is cold. I hover the tip above the paper, looking at the single, final question that holds the key to my freedom, or my permanent seat at desk 4, column 2, in the eternal class roster. I think some lessons were never meant to be taught, but this one, the one on the paper, I must learn now. I take the pen. The weight of it, the coldness of the metal, feels immense in my hand, a tangible tool of submission. Ms. R watches me, her posture unwavering, a statue carved from decades of disciplinary disappointment. The silence in the supervision office is profound, the final, perfect counterpoint to the chaotic noise of the detention room below. Every clock is still at 3:05. Time here is not measured. It is simply maintained. I have to be truthful. My natural impulse is to write a lie, to craft an elaborate excuse, or to try and outsmart the entity. But looking into Ms. R.'s blank, severe eyes, I understand that she thrives on deceit and pretense. The students below, Mark, Sarah, David, Jonas, were trapped because they tried to pretend they were good students, hiding their shame and waiting for release. They internalized the shame of their disciplinary action. My crime was unauthorized entry/disrupting order. My expectation was a good story. I placed the tip of the fountain pen on the crisp white paper. The ink flows smoothly, dark and permanent, staining the fiber. I write quickly before my courage fails me. I returned tonight because I was drawn by the rumor of Mark D. I wanted to prove that the detention room was a myth, a ghost story. Failing that, I wanted to experience the fear and capture it for an audience. I expected to find a strange architectural flaw or a complex lock mechanism. I expected to leave. I came for the story, the notoriety, and the satisfaction of exposing a secret. I expected to treat this institution's genuine tragedy as content. The sentence ends precisely at the 97th word. I stop writing. I lay the pen down gently on the desk, not meeting Ms. R.'s gaze. The only sound is the quickening of my own breath. She doesn't move. She doesn't reach for the paper. She stares at the words, her eyes scanning the confession. The tension stretches, lengthening the silence until it feels elastic, ready to snap. I feel the urge to apologize, to explain further, but I hold the impulse back. The assignment requested honesty, not justification. After an eternity, Ms. R slowly lowers her gaze from the paper. She looks directly at me, and for the first time, her rigid mask seems to shift. A flicker of something, not warmth, but perhaps acknowledgement, passes across her face. Truth, she whispers, the words sounding ancient and used. An acceptable response. She reaches out, taking a delicate corner of the exam paper. She doesn't grade it. She doesn't check for errors. Instead, she holds the paper lightly between her thumb and index finger, and slowly, deliberately, she tears it in half. The sound of the tear is impossibly loud in the small room. She sets the two pieces down, separating them, leaving them on the desk. Detention is not for punishment, she explains, leaning forward slightly, revealing a deep weariness in her expression. It is for correction. Your correction requires that you stop seeking the failure of this place and start respecting its structure. The narrative is closed. She looks toward the file cabinets lining the walls, thousands of files, thick with paperwork. The others, she says, her voice regaining its cold, official tone. They tried to write a new story. They blamed the school, the principal, the weather, anything but their own failure to abide by the rules. They created a permanent loop of evasion. She points to the tearing of the paper. You have acknowledged the reason for your presence. You accepted the assignment and submitted the required truth. She then does something truly baffling. She reaches into the breast pocket of her severe wool jacket and pulls out a pristine, old-fashioned brass school bell. It is exactly the kind of bell a teacher would use to call a class to attention. She holds it in her palm, the metal shining faintly in the dim light. The condition for release is met, she says. The bell is scheduled to ring now. I stare at the bell. The one constant in this temporal prison was the frozen time of 3:05, the time of perpetual non-release. The bell is the antithesis of the detention. She doesn't ring it immediately. She looks past me, toward the dark hatch leading back down into the air shaft. The door to the corridor, she says, indicating the oak door I just entered through. It is now closed. The detention room is now open. She closes her eyes, lifts the bell, and with a swift, authoritative motion, she rings it. Ring. The sound is not tinny or distorted. It is rich, deep, and impossibly loud. The sound is physical. It slams into my chest, a sonic shockwave that seems to shake the very foundations of the school, or whatever abstract geometry is holding this office up. The yellow light above us goes out. When the noise dies, the silence is immediate, total, and final. I blink rapidly, my eyes adjusting to the absolute darkness of the supervision office. You are dismissed, student, Ms. R.'s voice instructs, calm and distant. The structure is returned to the state it was in before your disruption. I turn and stumble back, scrambling out of the office and back into the narrow corridor of silent, stopped clocks. I don't dare turn on my phone. The hatch leading down the service shaft is gone. The floor where the hatch was is now solid, seamless wood. The walls where the clocks hung are smooth, paneled oak. The single weak bulb is gone. The entire corridor is dark. I spin around, looking for the supervision door. It, too, is gone, replaced by the same smooth oak paneling. The corridor is now an elegant, but completely sealed, wooden box. But at the opposite end of the hall, where the wall should be, there is light. It is the familiar, flickering, sickly green light of the Oakhaven High B wing. And the entrance is a solid, dark varnished wooden door, exactly like the one I opened hours ago. I rush toward it, a dizzying mix of panic and exhilaration gripping me. I reach out and grip the brass knob. It is cold, real, and familiar. I turn it and pull. The heavy door drags slightly on the carpeted floor of the administrative wing. I step across the threshold. I am standing in the main hallway of Oakhaven High. The lockers stretch away into the distance, and the air smells of dust and floor wax. The PA system is silent. The rain is gone. I look at my watch. It is 3:10 a.m. I am only 5 minutes past the time the clock in room 113 was frozen at. I step out fully and turn back toward the door I just exited. It is not the door to a service corridor. It is the door to room 113. It is open a crack, revealing only institutional darkness within. I can hear the faintest sound coming from inside. A chair leg scraping across linoleum, perhaps, or the soft rustle of paper. I look at the door. I look down the empty hallway. I think some lessons were never meant to be taught, but I learned this one. The only way out of perpetual detention is a true admission of guilt. I am free, but the door to room 113 is still there, and on the inside, I know exactly what is and what is not. I turn my back on the detention room, walk toward the stairwell, and leave the B wing. I do not look back. The walk out of Oakhaven High is the quietest journey I have ever taken. The huge glass main doors slide open with a gentle hydraulic hiss, and I step out onto the damp, newly washed concrete sidewalk. The air is cool, fresh, and carries the faint, clean scent of ozone lingering from the storm. It's early morning, maybe 4:30 a.m. now, the sky above the eastern horizon already showing the faintest hint of bruised purple light promising dawn. I don't run. I don't rush. Every step is deliberate, grounded in the certainty of this tangible reality. The low, steady hum of the streetlights, the sound of a distant truck engine shifting gears. These are the glorious, banal sounds of the world outside the permanent loop. I walk to my car, parked inconspicuously 2 blocks away, and slide into the driver's seat. I sit for a long time, the cold plastic of the steering wheel feeling reassuringly real beneath my hands. The fear has not vanished. It has simply solidified, hardening into a quiet, unwavering understanding of what I encountered. I check my phone. It's fully charged, sitting on the passenger seat where I tossed it before entering room 113. There are 3 missed calls and a message from a friend, dated hours ago. The clock on the screen reads 4:32 a.m. I didn't lose 3 hours. I lost nothing, yet I gained an eternity. I know that room 113 is still there. From the hallway, it looks like a normal door, and on the inside, it is still sealed, with the clock stopped at 3:05 and Ms. R. still waiting in the supervision office